Hey there everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a master study of The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Johannes Vermeer. I didn't know what master studies were, but Kelsey started talking about them and I realized I wanted to give it a little bit of a try, but I'll get into that in a little bit. I chose this painting because of the shadows and the way Vermeer does the shadows, and you will see me try it right about now. Give it a second. Right now, I try it and then I stop and I rethink my whole life decisions. And that is the moment I realize I fucked up. So let me give you a little bit of a backstory because you will now see me struggle to fix this and cover it and realize it's too freaking thick and I need to completely scrap it. So I literally got a palette knife, I scraped the hell out of that paper, I kind of ruined the paper a little bit, and I restarted all over again. And this is why. So as I was telling you, Kelsey started talking about these things, and I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. What are master studies? Like, obviously, we artists know we should study from other artists, right? It's part of the process. And I didn't know this was an actual thing to do for the classical, like, old masters. And so when I learned of this, I decided to give it a try, and I chose this painting. Although I had a few other options, I chose this painting because of the shadows. Not really realizing that that is achieved in two ways. First, it's oil painting. Second, it's glazing. So glazing is something you can do with oil paints and acrylics, something that completely dries, while gouache, since it reactivates just like watercolor, you can't really achieve that well, so you have to always account for that beforehand. And I was trying to achieve that without any prior knowledge, and I screwed up. I completely screwed up. Okay, thankfully I did scrape it out. I had to pray that things were gonna go okay, and I kept at it. I had to take breaks. That's why you see me jump around to the different sections at a time. I didn't do like the face first, then the clothes. Like, I kept jumping around because I needed to breathe. I needed my patience to come back to me and really, like, collect myself before continuing, right? And I'm so glad that I did follow through. I'm glad that for everything I did throughout this process, because in the end it does look great. Spoiler alert, but it does look great. So yeah, what did I learn throughout this process? I'm going to be talking a little bit further on, like on the outro, about this, but basically I see the value in this in a specific way. I think when we choose paintings like this to study, we have to go in with an objective. For me, was the colors, and that jumped right out the window from the get-go. So I just kept doing it just because, well, I already started, why not continue? And I think that choosing the artists you're going to study have to have a reason why you're studying them. It's either their color options, the shape language, or something about the way they paint or the way they, illustrate something that you want to study. I went in just because of the color of shadows, and in the end that was out the window. So what I realized throughout this process of just winging it, just going with the flow, was that studying from someone's painting is really interesting because they have figured out how to portray something. So the folds in the clothes, the pearl earring, the lips, they have already mastered that. So you're studying for someone that's already figured it out. And so you don't have to have that mental gymnastics of figuring out, how am I going to do this fold? How am I going to portray a pearl since I've never painted pearls in the past? How am I going to make like this scarf look nice and silky and with nice folds? All of that is figured out. All you have to do is copy it. And it was very simplified. And it helped me understand how they portray these parts. And I think I've gotten enough knowledge now to be able to apply to the next piece that I try that has folds. I think it won't be as hard, right? Because I learned through this how to shade it, how to make it look like this, look like that. And that was like what I learned the most throughout this process, was like the simplification of shapes that you can like learn from other artists, right? If you want to figure out how to draw a flower, don't only look for how to draw flower tutorials, but look at how like an artist that you admire paints that flower and try to figure it out by yourself. by looking at what they did, and it helped me figure out a lot of the folds and stuff, and even the pearl. I really did not know how to do that, and it really helps with that. So I found that it was useful, and I definitely want to do it again. But with different objectives, just different purposes, being more mindful of things, and hopefully also following my gut instincts, because I should have thought it through, and I should have just followed with what I usually do for painting. But in the end, I am pretty happy with how this came out. I found this to be very interesting, very challenging, and very, like, it tested my frustration and my patience, not gonna lie. But it was definitely a process that I enjoyed. And yeah, I would like to know if you guys ever tried this, and if you did, what paintings that you use. Are there paintings that you advise someone to use? Like, what has been your experience with this type of thing? Anyways, I'm gonna let you guys, watch the final little bits and bobs of this process, and I will meet up with you guys in the end for our little outro. So, as you saw, this is the finished piece. And as you saw, this has been a shit show. It was a shit show. The entire process was a shit show. So, I painted this yesterday, and I needed a breather after this, because let me tell you, it was stressful. I've already spoken about the whole process with you guys, so I'm not going to get into that again. What I am going to say is my last thoughts onto this whole studying old artists' art, right? So, I'm a firm believer that you should draw based on the people and the art that you admire. You should copy as much as you want, as much as you like, and really study it, right? If you like a particular anime or a particular cartoon, and then practice that style. That's how we all started. At least majority of artists start like that, admiring certain things and wanting to draw the characters they love and stuff like that. As long as you don't say, oh, this art is mine, this art is an original, this art is like my style, right? Practicing based on other artists is 100% like a valid way of practicing. I do think you also have to be careful not to base your entire style on one artist, because I can definitely see artists out there who I'm like, this is very based on that one artist, that one famous artist, and this is practically the same style. It's like practically the same copy. Have your style be unique enough where people will see it and be like, oh, that's Teresa. That's Teresa. 100% that's Teresa. That's what you want, right? So with all that in mind, and after that whole mini rant, I do think this was very good. I do see the validity, but I also think I chose the wrong painting. Now, I had two paintings in mind, and I chose this painting in particular because of the way the artist creates shadows, the darkness of them, and I wanted to experiment that. I don't know how, but I wanted to, because that's not what I would usually go for, at least in shading. So I wanted to go for that, and I wanted to challenge myself with that. And mistake number one was that red flag. Red flags everywhere. I should have just gone with how I usually choose colors. I should have experimented a little bit with my personal choice of colors and not just try to copy this for the colors. So I think that's where I messed up. I messed up the face right off the bat, and as you saw, I completely just scraped it all off and started again because it was a mess, okay? It still looks really messy. The face still looks really splotchy and messy. It honestly, if you look at it from a distance, it looks pretty fucking fire. It looks good, but it is very splotchy and slightly greenish because I experimented with that. The rest of the painting, I just had fun. I think what I learned the most throughout this process and what really kind of clicked was that by practicing what other artists do, you are not trying to reinvent something. You're just following what they're doing. So for the shading of the pearl, I just followed what the original artist did and found that it was a lot easier to do this. Like, they did it in such a simplistic way, and I was like, oh, okay, that's actually pretty smart. Same with the lips. I felt like the lips, they did such luscious lips, but very simplistically. It was so simplistically done. So I was learning a lot by just seeing how they portrayed some parts of it, even the folds and the clothes, which I'm not great at. I was having a lot of fun just imitating those because I realized, oh, this is how he's portraying how this thing folded and how that thing folded. And even though I got a little lost on the blouse, the scarf, for example, was very like illuminating to experiment with that. So I do see the value in that, and I do think I learned a lot throughout this process, and I would like to do this again with other paintings and with better choices, but I would like to do this again. I also think this really helped me play around with values. I don't know if I like was completely successful, but I do see a little bit of improvement on my value choices because I was going based on someone else's choices. So I do think that was like very illuminating as well. And yeah, this was fun-ish. It was more frustrating than fun, to be completely honest. It was a struggle. It was a really big struggle. I was so frustrated, and it was definitely a trust the process kind of thing. So that being said, I do like her. Honestly, when I finished painting, I thought, she doesn't look that good. All this for this? Fuck. But after looking at her throughout the night and today, she looks pretty nice. I think it's a pretty decent study, honestly. Now, I do genuinely would like to know if you guys have tried doing this type of study before, and if you have, like, how did it go? Did you feel like you learned anything? What paintings would you advise me to actually give a try? You know, what paintings do you think, what artists do you think are worth, like, studying to see, like, to improve, you know? Portraits, environments, anything, honestly, anything. What are your favorite artists? And yeah, like, what do you advise? So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this stupid little video, let me know by liking this video, and subscribe if you want to see more of this, you know, or something. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.